today is if you need a trailer, right? I mean, if you need a new trailer, we can pretty much get almost anything from a grain hopper to a reefer.
You're an entrepreneur. You've started multiple businesses, right? What do you think is the biggest opportunity right now in transportation and logistics?
The biggest opportunity, transportation and logistics. I mean, it's the best decision I ever made was going to business with my father. And I think he would say the same thing about me. I mean, we've been at each other's throat a lot, right? If you can imagine. But at the end of the day, we always had the business's best interest in mind. You know, we don't like to say that, we have customers, right? Customers is kind of transactional. Like I mentioned clients a few times. The reason we mention clients is because we still work with the same guys that we did in 2012. Those are our clients.
Hustle fam, we are back with another amazing episode all the way from sunny Florida, Mr. Derek MADON.
There you go.
The CEO and co-founder of Nationwide Haul. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
How was the flight?
It was good. Simple, easy, early flight. Yeah, always good. Always good to get out of it, get out early.
I hear you're in town to see one of your customers.
That's right.
Yeah. What's going on with that?
We're seeing NFI. We've been working with those guys now for 7 or 8 years. We work with them on selling their equipment in the retail space, and we're actually looking at partnering with them on a physical dealership out in Paulsboro, New Jersey.
Really?
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
So they're opening up a dealership, and then you guys will be managing it, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, we're kind of leveraging their used equipment, right? They're not a dealership.
Yeah,
right? They focus on moving freight. That's their core business. But I mean, they have to sell a lot of equipment, right? By nature, they probably sell 300, 400, 500 trucks a year. So we've been working with them to help them through that. So the idea is that we'll get together, we'll operate a location for them, basically a sales dealership location. We'll have their trucks as the main focus. But what's cool about the partnership is we get to sell our trailers and all of our other equipment as well.
Okay.
So we'll have a hybrid location up here in New Jersey.
Okay.
Which is good.
That's cool. So you've been entrepreneur for 12 years now? How long has Nationwide been in business?
We started in 2012.
2012.
So it's been about 13 years.
12, 13 years.
Yeah, 12, 13 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you founded a company with Tracy MADON.
Yeah, is my father.
That's your father.
Tracy. Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes people think my wife. Not the case. But
no, I actually saw a video with you and your father.
Yeah.
So really cool, man. Really cool story. So we're going to get into your story. But before we do that, I want to ask you a question. You're
Sure.
an entrepreneur. You've started multiple businesses, right? Mm-hmm. What do you think is the biggest opportunity right now in transportation and logistics?
The biggest opportunity, transportation and logistics. I mean, there's so much going on with tariffs and with freight right now. It's really a relationship business at the end of the day. I think it's just to support the small trucker. I think at the end of the day, they still move the most freight here in America, and it's really the backbone of the transportation industry as a small trucking company.
So if you had to start another business today, knowing everything that you know,
I don't know if I'd do another one, but
if you had to, right? Let's say you're starting all over, and you're not going to start a tractor and trailer leasing and rental company.
Yeah.
With all the opportunity that you see out there, what do you think it would be? What's going on, Hustle fam? It's Rahmel from Truck and Hustle. Listen, when you're out here moving freight, your money should move just as fast, if not faster. That's why I want to introduce you to the LOADPAY Debit MasterCard. This isn't just a card, it's your money in motion, connected directly to your LOADPAY bank account. When you're approved, invoices get paid in minutes. Not hours, not days, minutes. That cash is ready to spend on your card. No waiting on bank holidays, no chasing checks. Use it anywhere MasterCard is accepted. Fuel, breakdowns, lodging, even meals on the road. And if you're managing multiple trucks, you can issue multiple expense cards to your drivers and control spending in real time. It's also integrated with Triumph, a trusted name that's been supporting carriers for years. So if you're serious about running a smarter operation, click the link in the description. Go to loadpay.com, open an account, and get their debit card built for the hustle. Keep your wheels turning and your money working. Let's go. This is an ad sponsored by LOADPAY.
I would actually love to start a marketing agency.
Marketing?
Yeah, it's been on the radar for a long time. I think there is a lot that you could do within the space with dealerships, with fleets, with different different lenders in the space. And if you go and you search, like as a business, I've searched for marketing agencies that specialize in, dealership for trucking, right? And there's really not many out there. So it's been on the radar for us to do for a while. But I got enough on my plate for right now.
Taking notes. We might have to do that, Quake. Start a marketing agency. All right, so take me back to 2012 when you guys first got it started. How did you get into the industry to begin with? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to even before business, right? Yeah. So I was a tennis player, right? I grew up, my dad played tennis. When I was, 10, 11 years old, I really took a love for the sport, and I started to train and compete. And that's where I really got, I think, the work ethic and the desire to succeed and to win was, founded in tennis. And my dad had played tennis his whole life, right? So it was a passion of his. And, him being my coach, he worked with me, ever since 10 years old, all the way through juniors. And I went to, I wasn't good enough to play professional tennis, and I knew that. But I knew that I could get a college scholarship from it, right? So went to Florida Atlantic University on a tennis scholarship. Decided to play there for 3 years, and I did not play my senior year. Life was kind of knocking at the door a little bit, and I had to figure out, what do I want to do, right? Yeah. I'm not going to make money in tennis. I could continue teaching, but maybe not the lifestyle I wanted at that point. So, right. I dropped tennis. I started teaching at a country club there locally in Boca while I finished my senior year. Helped me pay, for the school since I lost the scholarship when I quit. And I got into really finding out a love for business and entrepreneurship. So started with a teacher. Her name was Jean McConnell. She's a great mentor for me, and she taught the realest business class in school I had, which was no tests, no papers, but a project. And it was an entrepreneurial project where you're on a team with 8 to 10 people. You're judged and you're rated by your peers. And I kind of fell in love with competing against, the other businesses in the class, right? And just kind of parlayed that into, business plan competition, and did that with my friend and got pretty high up there. But again, I'm graduating, what am I going to do? My dad had just started a very small business. Okay. And it was basically this. It was not branded Nationwide Halt, but it had been a few months. And he comes from the trucking industry. He's a background writer. He's owned a couple small businesses before, and he was working at the time for Wabash Manufacturer doing sales. Okay. Yeah, and he actually decided to leave and to start his own dealership. Right. Looking back, I don't know how smart it was. To be honest with you, I think at the time we had really nothing. Right. We had some good contacts that he kept in touch with, financially, 30 grand and a company loan for 40, right? If you're thinking about starting a company with that, especially one that buys and sells assets, it's really not enough, right? So he started, it was him, it was our next door neighbor as his admin. And I joined him probably maybe 6 months or so after he started that. Okay. And I never thought I'd stay, right? I thought I would help my dad for a little bit, support him, pay it back a little. And I always kind of thought I would get into something else, but learn from my dad. Yeah. What type of dealership? So it was a trailer dealership. Trailers. Just used trailers down in North Miami Gardens. Okay. Yeah. What made him get into trailers? Well, you said he worked for Wabash. Yeah, so we kind of understood from Ryder to Wabash, he had kind of always been in that trucking and transportation space, at least for the last 10 or 15 years of his career at that point. Okay. Yeah. All right. So you guys get started. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that first year in business, man. What did that look like? No salary. No money, right? No money, right? But a free place to stay. A lot of good lessons learned from my dad, and we grinded our first year, right? We hustled, right? We did everything we could to, do right by our client, but at the same time, try to scratch enough inventory to buy and sell. And we were talking maybe when I joined him, it was 2 or 3 units on the lot, 4 units on the lot, and I was more so assisting, him in that process. Yeah. And we he actually at this point figured out kind of how to leverage, what we did very well with what we call fleet remarketing.
Okay.
And that's kind of how we took the business from just a small little nothing business to where all of a sudden we had, a couple $1 million of equipment on our lot.
Tell me about that fleet remarketing. What does that mean?
So when you first start, you don't have a lot of money and you're a sales dealership. What do? Right? So you have to sell other people's equipment, and you have to do it in a very, positive way and structured way. You can't just, broker equipment that you don't have access to do it for. But he had a great fleet contact relationship. It was a fleet in the Midwest. They ran refrigerated, transport, a big one. And they, just like a lot of other fleets, they had to sell through their inventory, right? So they buy, 1,000, 2,000 trailers a year, and they have to sell 1,000, 2,000 trailers a year, right? So how do they do that? So a fleet can trade back to a manufacturer, right? Not going to get that much money for that. Or they could try to set up their own dealership in a way, maybe also not their core business. So how do they dispose of that many assets? So this fleet decided to use kind of consignment, dealerships throughout the country at strategic locations. We were one of them, right? Which all of a sudden you go from having maybe, 4 or 5 trailers sitting on your lot, that you're marketing on truck paper, to having 50, right? And so what's nice about that is, we got to maintain that set margin,
right,
when we sold that equipment.
It also makes you look bigger as well.
It makes us look bigger. And we parlayed that into, hey, we do this now. This is what we do. We do it for other fleets. And that helped us gain, get the money that we needed to basically grow the business and put it back in.
Okay.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. So without the fleet remarketing, how are you getting the other trailers that you had, in inventory?
I mean, we would still buy and sell.
Just buying and
selling?
selling?
We buy and sell. A guy comes in, he's maybe got a 7-8-year-old trailer. And at that time, it was pretty strictly reefers, maybe a drive-in here and there, but pretty much 100% reefer trailers.
Okay.
And, he would come in, he would want to buy a newer one, still slightly used, but we would take his unit on trade just like any other dealership. We'd give him a fair deal, but we'd obviously have a margin. We'd market that and sell it, clean it up, fix a few things, and flip it. That was really how we started. Today it's very different. We've built a lot more in the business, and obviously different divisions, and that's kind of what I did for the business, is build out each division.
And at the time, it's all used trailers, right? You guys aren't selling new trailers, so you're just
Yeah.
buying old trailers.
That's it.
And then selling them.
We would have loved to we tried for years to get a new OEM representation.
Yeah.
But, Utility and Wabash and all these, Great Dane dealer down there, they had been there for, 30 years. How do you break in, especially with a small mom and pop dealership? So breaking into that was really tough.
Got you. So you would say the fleet remarketing is what was like the most pivotal moment in you guys' business, which took you guys to the next level.
Yeah, it allowed us to actually have a seat at the table, right? It did nothing more than give us the money we needed to grow, right? Because no bank was loaning you money at that point. I remember sitting across the table from 2 or 3 banks, going over our plan, and it's like, it sounds like a great thing you have going on, but I'm like, really, can you help us?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
What were we supposed to do?
Got it. So what were the toughest challenges you faced, like kind of early on, just kind of getting the business off the ground and getting started?
Yeah, I think traditional challenges, growth challenges. We made the mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make. They hire friends and family and their neighbor, and that doesn't always work out.
Yeah.
In our case, it worked out well a lot of times, and sometimes it fell on its face. But today we have our first employee. She's been with us since actually before me. It was the next door neighbor of my mom and dad.
Oh, wow.
For 20 years, and she's still with us today. She was our first hire. Our second hire was my best friend, still is my best friend. We won, tennis national championships together, and he's still with us in sales. And I believe our third hire, which is Brian Chambers, is actually still with us as well. So, those early people that joined the business, they've stuck with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So you guys start out with just trailer sales.
Trailer sales.
Right? Buying
Nothing
old
else.
trailers,
Right.
then you sell them.
Exactly.
How do you start to grow the business from there? Because now you start to rent and lease. Tell me about how that happens.
So all of our progression in different business units that we set up from this dealership, it really came out of necessity, right?
Okay.
So if you can think about it, a guy comes in to the dealership, likes a $50,000 or $60,000 trailer. Maybe back then they weren't that much, right? now they are.
Yeah.
But he likes, you know, $40,000, $50,000 trailer. I mean, you know, we're talking with owner operators. They don't have that sitting in cash. So what do you do, right? So you have to work with, at that point, brokers. So we'd work with a finance broker. And we work with this broker consistently. And, you know, at this point, maybe a year or so into it, 2 years into it, we're selling 10 to 15 trailers a month at this point, which is pretty good. You know, we're doing well. But the broker's handling all the financing. You know, he's flipping us $100 here, $200 here. My dad actually knew the economics of that, and he said, well, if he can do it, you know, maybe we can set it up too. The broker's just working with banks and industry lenders. You know, why can't we set that up? So this is going to be a common theme. He kicked me out, and he said, all right, well, go do it. You know, and I'm like, I'm 22, 23 years old at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about even business, right? I'm learning. I'm getting the hang of sales, and I'm following up with my clients, and I'm, you know, out there sweating in the Florida heat, and I'm enjoying it.
Right.
And he kicks me out, and he says, hey, look, you know, we got Matt now in the office, and I got the guy in, you know, Brian in Tennessee, and I think we're covered in sales. And, you know, maybe looking back, I just did a bad job, but you know, he kicked me out. He said, look, go get a nice office in Fort Lauderdale, you know, downtown Fort Lauderdale somewhere. You know, get out of North Miami and go start a finance division of our company. Okay. And so I did, right? And so I you know, figured out who the lenders were, and I made the calls, and, you know, I sent the business plans. And one of the first lenders that we got set up with was a company called Hitachi Capital. Okay. Right, which has since sold a few times. But they're an industry lender, and they focus in, you know, truck and trailer lending. So they took a shot at us as a small dealership with no OEM new representation, and they allowed us to start, you know, working through them to structure these deals. Okay. Which, you know, paid us more money. You know, we get referral points if we got enough business going with them. But it also did something too that I didn't think it would do, is it allowed us to charge less money for our client. Right. So if there's a broker in the mix and he's got to pay us a little bit, he's running his whole business based on brokering transactions, he has to make more. Yeah. So that rate, you know, which normally would be, you know, I don't remember back then, but 7 to 9%, you know, he'd mark that up to 12, 13%. So we would have to pass that on to the client. Okay. So when we took it over, we could put that rate at 8, 9%, and we'd still make some money, right? But our client would save money too. Got it. And what type of trailers did you guys specialize in? So at the very beginning, at that time, it was reefers. All reefers. Yeah, reefer trailers. We'd take the occasional dry van or flatbed, but it was mostly over the road trailers, right? So reefers, dry vans, flatbeds. Any specific reason? That's just all we could get his hands on? My dad had that knowledge of the reefer. He knew the carrier unit very well. He knew the Thermo-King unit very well. He knew how to sell both of those. And you know, we had, being in Florida, right, being in Miami with the flowers and, you know, all the refrigerated transport that goes on down here, it was there was a healthy amount of it running around. Got it. Okay, so tell me about how the business continues to grow from there. Yeah, so we running financing for a little while. And we got really good at it. You know, at some point, I think I went a little overboard, but I think we had over 20 lenders that we worked with. Okay. Right? So Hitachi was one of them, and, you know, they have their own credit criteria. Back then it was, you know, A credit. You know, you have to have 700 credit plus, few years in business to get a loan with Hitachi. And then we started to reach out to other lenders, right? Traditional banks like Wells Fargo, industry specific lenders as well. And just talk about why you need so many different lenders. Yeah, I mean, first of all, you have a whole plethora of clients coming into you, right? They have, you know, from a startup to a guy that's been in the business 5, 10 years, you know, a company that they're buying their first unit to a company who's buying their 50th unit. You know, those are different risk profiles, okay? And the lenders typically gravitate to 1 or 2 risk profiles. So you have to kind of fill the voids, right? So we tried to find an option for, you know, the trucker who was just starting his business. You know, that wasn't crazy interest rates and crazy down payments. And we tried to find an option for the fleet operator who had the bank credit line, but we felt like we could beat it. Right. So we tried to, you know, really fit all the gaps there. Cover all the bases. Yeah. Okay. So tell me how you started to continue to grow from there. So yeah, at that point, my focus was financing. And I'm letting these guys sell, and I'm not really that involved. And my dad at this point, this is probably back in 2015 at this point. Yeah. He's still running the business. Yeah. He's making but still all the fairly decisions. New, 3 years in. 3 years in. And we're starting to gain some traction. and get real good at financing this equipment. So, went out and hired someone with me. And I think at one point we had 2 or 3 people in the office just doing financing. And we started doing it for other dealerships that we got so good at it, right? So we branded it differently. We branded it as Nationwide Equipment Finance, which is a little different than Nationwide Haul. The reason is because we were working with our competitors, right? So, I didn't feel that our competitors would necessarily send us business knowing that we were the dealership competing against them on the sale.
Yeah.
But we always kept it completely separate CRMs. We never, call the client and say, hey, I can get you a better deal, because we'd burn ourselves, right?
Why won't other dealerships do their own finance like you guys did?
They did. They just, the dealerships we work with maybe were like we were. They didn't necessarily have the person or the experience to do it.
Okay.
And a lot of the dealerships were, they've been doing it for 20 years and they didn't have to do that. They already had a client base. They're already making their sales on more like an autopilot. So they'd use brokers. It was still very common back then to use a broker as a dealership, and it still is. There's still a lot of dealerships that don't want the headache or the hassle of operating a finance division, and they would rather just work with a broker that they can just send an app to, and the broker basically gets the deal done and pays them. I mean, it's still a good model, right?
Yeah.
And we work with dealerships like that today as a broker.
Okay.
So
got it. What was the next pivotal moment?
The next pivotal moment was when we decided to get out of North Miami. So we were in a lot that we were sharing with probably 15 other businesses at that point.
Okay. What's your inventory look like at that time?
It was still heavily remarketing, consignment, but
Okay.
we'd started to buy a few of our own units. So we probably had 20 to 30 trailers on the lot at that point.
Okay.
I think maybe a few more. And if I remember correctly, I mean, we started to we had a deal worked out with the landlord, because when you start, we couldn't really sign a long lease. We couldn't commit to much. So we had a deal worked out with him where every unit we sold that left, every unit that came, he'd record it, right? Everything that left, we'd pay him.
Okay.
And we started to get to that point where it was like, man, there's a lot leaving. And, they're coming to us now and they're raising that deal. They're saying, hey, that $400 that you were paying us when everything leaves, we're going to need $800 or whatever the number was. I don't remember exactly, but it was a shock.
Yeah.
So I remember my dad, scrambling around and driving all throughout Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and Pompano Beach. And he came across this location in Pompano. We're still there today. And, I remember him looking through the bars. I was with him, and we were arguing, right? Which is common. We're arguing back and forth. We could fit 30 trailers, and I'm like, no, we can't. And he's like, yes, we can.
Right.
And he was right. We could fit it. So
Okay.
so we ended up, that was a big move for us. It had, it actually had 3 big bays for a shop.
Okay.
And at this point, we had no repair, right? But it actually was a nice size yard. We could fit 30 pieces of equipment. We had an office there, 2-story office. And it was relatively easy to get to for a trucking company. So we pulled the trigger on this lease, right? We didn't buy this, but we pulled the trigger on that lease and we moved in. And Matt, who's our, I guess the second or third employee at this time, was basically holding down the fort down in North Miami. And one weekend, we just basically wrapped it all up and moved out. We paid him, obviously, but overnight, I mean, we had, 30 trailers leave. Right.
Okay.
And so we moved everything into Pompano Beach, and that's where we moved our headquarters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. So moving to Pompano Beach,
Mm-hmm.
does that take the business to another level?
It does, because it gives us now, we have the dealership, which does sales used.
Yeah.
Right. We have the finance company kind of rolling well, and I'm loving that.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. And then now we had the opportunity to grow a shop and a service department, which is a traditional move for a dealership. So we're kind of taking the shape, and we're kind of forming it into like a real dealership at this point.
Yeah.
And so, my dad had a previous career at kind of operating a repair shop. So for him, it was, almost second nature that, hey, look, we have the 3 bays, we have the room, we have the clients. If you have the clients in the space, let's start the shop.
Yeah.
So we went out, we hired someone to run the shop, and it did not do very well. It really didn't do well for a long time. Listen, it's not, I know now why. It's because, if you're not pouring yourself into it from the very beginning, in my opinion, it's not going to succeed how you think it's going to succeed. You got to put like the blood, sweat, and tears into it. And honestly, I can change a light bulb and maybe a doorknob, but I'm not that mechanical to understand the mechanics of a truck repair shop, right? Sales, easy concept for me. The financing end of it, a little easier. But so we just hired really the wrong people to run that.
Got it. So when you say pour yourself into, you mean you weren't really paying it much attention. It was kind of like,
I didn't
we
have
the customers, they should come here. It's kind of like a no-brainer and everything should figure itself out kind of deal.
I personally didn't have the technical expertise to operate a shop, right?
Okay.
At this point, I'm probably 25 years old. I've never really been around a truck repair shop, right? So, but my dad had a lot of experience, and we made some mistakes there, but we got it going. It wasn't until we hired now the president of our company, who had a major background in repair, that he really got it going in the right direction and got it to a profitable point for us.
Okay.
But it solved a lot of problems for us. Your own repair shop, you can fix your own equipment, so it solved a lot of issues.
Okay, so we start off with trailer sales, then we move into the financing, then we move into the repair shop.
Right.
So what's next?
It's a whole lot. So
love it.
We're going around and I'm trying to put all the pieces together. I'm probably missing a few dates here and there, but we're operating those things. We're still growing. We're adding salespeople here and there and different focuses. The next biggest move was for us to develop our own in-house leasing and rental division.
Okay.
So another problem, right? Things got tight in the industry. A lot of the lenders stopped lending. Trucking is one of those classes of business that's a high risk thing, right? So when times got tough, the money kind of dried up from a lot of these lenders, and they wouldn't take the risk on some of the guys that were starting out or maybe had a couple blemishes on their credit. But we knew those clients for, at this point, 3, 4, 5 years. So we knew they were good, hardworking clients and good people. And so we felt comfortable to take a shot at leasing them equipment. When the bank wouldn't do the financing, we said, well, we'll come up with our own structure. We called it a flex lease back then.
Okay.
And again, at this point, my dad came up with the structure, and it was a very flexible lease term where they had options to buy it at any point for a set price. They could return it after a certain period, or they could just keep renting it. So it gave these guys the flexibility that they needed at that point to kind of get in the business and be successful. Right.
Like they say, necessity is the mother of invention, huh?
Yeah.
So you guys just keep on adding on these different verticals. So when you get into, you're actually financing and you guys are taking that risk.
Yeah.
Do you have any issues with that? Like, how does that work out? Because I'm sure everybody doesn't pay their bills all the time.
I know. Well, believe it or not, the initial core group of guys that we worked with, they all paid their bills.
Okay.
They were very, very good. And maybe we got a little lucky.
Yeah.
But we knew these people too. We weren't at that point, putting out deals with everybody. We were putting out deals with clients that we really knew needed it and we were close to. But the hardest part about that was the money. I mean, now, you're not just selling and getting it back. You're buying an asset, you're putting it out for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, but you're getting a little cash flow from that. But that's a really expensive venture. It's very capital intensive.
How do you access the capital for that?
Well, we went back to the banks, and again they said no at this point. So we tried. I think at that point I was asking for $250,000, and we felt that we had the asset to put up, and we had our financials were doing okay at that point. Yeah. And they just wouldn't lend to kind of a newer leasing company. So we actually brought in an investor who was one of our clients actually, and he it was just a financial investor. We paid him a percentage return. We didn't give up any equity of the company.
Okay.
And we paid a little more than we probably should have, but we didn't give up any equity in our company.
Yeah.
And so he was happy with that return that we were giving him, and it allowed us to continue to grow that. We leveraged that money for about a year, and then we paid it all back, and we started doing it on our own profitability. Okay. So as we would make money in the dealership, it would pretty much go to cover basic bills for us to live, but then we would put it back into this leasing company and just continue to grow the business organically.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So next, keep on going. How do we continue
Keep
to
on
grow,
going.
man?
Yeah,
There's so much going on here. We're gonna go back and break it all down, but I just want to get an idea of everything you guys do.
There's a lot up here in my mind. So, yeah, from there, we kind of operated that way for years. But instead of adding new businesses, we focused on growth in different areas of locations, right? So we bought our first location. I think our first location was a yard in Fort Lauderdale that instead of leasing from a landlord, we decided to purchase. And we kept both, right? We kept the place we were leasing and we were experiencing growth. So we needed to, have another 20 or 30 pieces of equipment that we could park as well. So, the yard was Pompano location and then the Fort Lauderdale yard, they were about 3 miles away from each other.
Okay.
Right. So it felt like it was close enough where we didn't have to have a service department at that yard. It could just sort of be a sales location for us. So we bought it and in the correct fashion. My dad has found almost every one of these properties, right? Just by driving around. And at the time we still used realtors, but he found every one of our properties off market, every single one, right? And he found it and it just worked out to where we had the ability to buy it. And we got a bank loan at this point, which was nice. We were at that size where they felt comfortable. And we purchased the property. Again, another like big, scary move for us. But we felt like you can't go wrong owning property. And that was a good move for us. So we started operating in Fort Lauderdale from a sales standpoint and repair and some sales also in Pompano. I was still running things and off of Fort Lauderdale on the finance end of it. And we started to grow that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Keep going, man. Keep going. Keep giving it
Tell
to
me if I'm rambling. The next thing we did is we purchased another location up in Georgia. And for us, it was a strategic location. It was in Macon, Georgia. And it wasn't it's not Atlanta, right? But for us, it's very strategic because it was cheaper to park equipment there, right? And we could fit probably 75 to 100 units there. So as we're growing and we're growing this trailer, inventory, having that location really gave us a presence to be able to buy bigger groups of trailers. Now we weren't just remarketing; we were buying bigger groups and taking down 10 and 20 at a time. But we needed a place to move them, and the yard in Fort Lauderdale was just about 1.5 acres, right? So wasn't going to fit that many. Pompano was busy with service, so we were running out of room. So we did it out of necessity to buy that location. And again, it came with bays, and it came with a nice office. And so we set up the same, fragmented thing we had in South Florida, being, sales in one place, service in the other. We set it all up there in one spot, sales and service. We ran that as just a regular dealership as well. Okay. So that was a point.
So now it's 3 locations.
Now it's 3 locations and Cypress, right? And Fort Lauderdale, which is kind of a 4th. And, at this point now we're starting to get into discussions with OEMs. They're seeing the growth through the years and they're tired of the phone calls, hey, would you set us up? Can we represent your equipment? And we set up with a manufacturer and, we ended up getting set up as a dealer in South Florida, but, we were very aggressive, right? So there's AORs, which is an area of representation as a dealership that you have to kind of stay in.
Okay.
And so, we were set up as a small mom pop dealership that they gave us a small AOR, but our clients were coming from everywhere. And to be honest, it really pissed off a lot of the other dealers in the group. So they actually canceled us.
Really?
Yeah. So this OEM actually canceled us, and it made sense. They're like, look, our biggest client, our biggest dealership is in sort of close to your area, and you guys are you guys have clients coming from everywhere. We're getting a couple complaints, but we're an aggressive sales dealership. I mean, if a guy comes in to buy something, we're going to sell it to him, right? So we got ourselves in a little trouble, and we got canceled. That day, we kind of got that call. My dad made a call to MAC, right? And we got the president of MAC on the phone to call him back, and they had a conversation for an hour and a half in the car.
Right.
It just caught him at the right time, right? And they hit it off, and my dad calls me and he says, "Hey, we're going to be a Mack trailer dealer. I mean, Mack is they build pneumatics, they build dumps, they build open deck flatbed trailers. They're a custom builder, and I think one of the more premier builders in the country. And just great people to this day.
Yeah.
And so, we got that call and immediately I feel like we upgraded, right? Upgraded that same day. So, sometimes bad things happen and
right. It opened up a whole new opportunity for you.
Shut one door and open the next. And so we did very, very well with Mac. Mac got behind us. They made sure that we were successful. They gave us the training. They gave us a rep that came with us on sales calls. They showed us all about their products. They helped us inventory things, all the way up to the owner of Mac, which was like really weird for us. Right?
Yeah.
This big this big national corporation that builds thousands and thousands of pieces of equipment, the best in the industry is taking a chance on us, who's a small South Florida dealership.
So they didn't have a presence in the area? Like, what was the difference between them and the other OEM?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they had an AOR representation in South Florida, Miami, to be honest with you at that point. They're out of Ohio, and they've got hundreds of dealerships that they represent, or that they work with that represent them. And again, I don't remember if they were canceling somebody and it just was the right timing.
Right time, right place.
But we told the story, and again, we worked with their competitor, so that probably helped too.
That helped, yeah.
Yeah, so we jumped on the Mac, jumped on board with Mac, and we started to learn about their dump trailers, and now it gives us an OEM, right?
Right. And now you're able to offer different equipment types that you didn't offer previously, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So that really propelled us into, people, common sales, people buy off the influence of others. So if Mac would set us up, why couldn't we get, a reefer and drive-in OEM, and why couldn't we get a heavy haul? And so we parlayed that relationship, and, we did a good job with Mac for a couple of years, and we got, set up with an OEM for, vans and reefers and flatbeds or heavy haul equipment. Everything, right? So we specialize today in mostly the trailer side of the business.
Yeah.
So we're not an OEM for trucks. So we don't sell brand new day cabs or sleepers. We can get them for you. We have great rates, great deals, but it's a referral type relationship that we have. Okay. But we are the OEM for
the
six major OEM
manufacturers. And who are they?
So we have Vanguard, CMC Vanguard. That's for reefers and dry vans. We have obviously Mac. They have a whole variety of equipment, dumps, pneumatics, tanks. We have heavy haul through XL Specialized in Pitts. We work with another company called Wade Services, which is like a 45-foot steel flat, with the universal forklift on the back.
Yep.
We sell a lot with Paulfinger, and we sell their truck-mounted forklifts. So, I mean, today, if you need a trailer, right? I mean, if you need a new trailer, we can pretty much get almost anything, from a grain hopper to a reefer.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then on the truck sales side, you just kind of mentioned that. Let's kind of allude to that. How did you get into that business on the used truck sales side?
I mean, one comes with the other, right? a little bit. So even though we really have kept the specialization in trailers, we still sell a lot of trucks. We sell hundreds of trucks a year. And through these different relationships. So one of the main ones is like our fleet remarketing relationship. So we sell a lot of trucks for NFI, and we sell them all over the country for them. We also buy and sell a few of our own trucks. We also work with a lot of banks. So when that truck gets repossessed, and sometimes it's a year old or 2 years old, sometimes they're great pieces of equipment, we will take that piece of equipment for them, we'll recondition it, and we'll put it on our yard for sale, and we'll sell it for them at the proper retail market, right? We don't charge them storage, we don't beat them up, we treat them very fairly as a bank. And so, we're able to pass that, that bank repo on and prep it properly, run it through our shop that's certified to do it, and again, get it out to the retail market. And then we've done very well with that. So we don't buy a lot of trucks, buy and sell a lot, but we work with a lot of partners to sell a lot of trucks.
Got it. So that's kind of how you find your inventory, just kind of going through other people who are turning in their stuff and kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably buy, 50 to 100 trucks a year. Okay. For inventory.
Okay. What type of trucks are you looking for? What's like the specs?
Yeah, we're doing over the road sleepers, right? So Freightliner Cascadias, right? We do a lot of those. Do Volvos. We do almost any type of truck out there, but mostly sleepers, and then some day cabs as well. We've gotten into some yard trucks as well, some yard spotters. But yeah, I'd say probably 80% of what we sell is the trailer, probably about 20% being
Trucks.
power unit.
So you guys have some forklifts on your website too.
Yeah, the Paul finger forklifts. Yeah, those are the truck mounted ones. They go back into the universal kit.
Okay. Super interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So you continue to grow and diversify. What's next? What's the next business that you guys add on to the suite?
The next business, is in 2020, if I'm remembering correctly. So we just had our 5-year anniversary, and we actually decided to set up an insurance agency.
Okay.
Right. So we do sales, financing, repair, leasing and rental, and now insurance. Yeah. And that's hard. That was a hard one. Again, I didn't have the experience in insurance.
Now, did you partner with somebody for that?
We didn't. I did not. No, I just learned it. I mean, honestly, I just learned it. So wow. I did a lot of research. I went out and got my 220 license. We brought in, a director to help basically start this business with me. And I didn't have any knowledge of insurance at that point.
Wow.
Yeah. So we brought him in, and me and him sat at the conference table, I remember. And I remember that first day, we were like, all right, well, I was like, well, what's next? He says, well, what's next? And we're like, oh, shoot, we got to figure this out. So, but, listen, what we did know is that we had, hundreds and thousands of clients, right, that all had to have insurance. Yeah. And what I understood at that point through my research is that, this is really a relationship industry, insurance. As an agency, you don't control the rate of the insurance companies that you work with, right? So I thought this was great. I don't have to compete in the same way I'm used to competing. Like as in sales, we control the price of the equipment,
right.
And we have to, compete. For an insurance agency, you work with the Progressives and the Berkshires and the Great Wests and the Centuries of the world, right? And they have to give each agent the same rate. So let's say you're an insurance agent and I'm an insurance agent, right? And we have a client that comes to you for a quote, me a quote. If we both go to the same exact market, meaning Geico or Century, that quote back to you as the agent is the same price. You're not allowed to mark it up. You have to present that quote directly to your client. You cannot change it.
Right.
That premium amount has to be the same. So I thought, man, well, we have such a leg up, right, on everybody else because all these other agencies, they don't have the relationship that we do on the sales side.
Right.
So we take care of them on their trailer. They trust us on their repair. They trust us on their financing. The theory was, why wouldn't they trust us in insurance?
For sure.
And it worked.
For sure.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So how many pieces of inventory do you guys have now just across all the...
we have access to maybe 400 or 500 units in our inventory right now.
Okay.
And then a whole heck of a lot more after that. And it's hard to stock every single thing, right? And so as a dealership, we are a stocking dealership. It means we keep the equipment on our lot. We're not brokers like we were at the beginning. Yeah. We had to be. But we still have the ability to find you what you're looking for at a very good price. We buy wholesale, right? So we buy from big fleets around the country and auction houses, and we find equipment and we recondition it, right? So we have the ability to find what you're looking for, even if we don't have it sitting in our stock. Yeah. But we try to keep it. We try to keep everything that we can.
Got it. How do you manage and track all the inventory that you guys have?
A hell of a team. A hell of an operations team. There's a lot that goes into it. There's the buying of the equipment, the transportation of the equipment. Heck, president of our company and our COO was out last week in Arizona in like 110 degree weather, going through 2 yards of 150 trailers to pick out the top 20. Right. So wow. It's all hands on deck. Even at this point with 50 employees, I think the common denominator of our company is, everybody takes out the trash. You don't hear, that's not my job kind of comments around the office. And I think that's really the strength of our group.
Yeah, got it. When you're helping these fleets offload equipment, like what's the biggest challenge in kind of getting them the value that they're looking for out of these equipment pieces?
It's talking about book value versus real value.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So they look at their spreadsheets and they say, man, our book value is 40 grand.
Yeah.
Well, the market's 25. And, book value is important, obviously, from a tax standpoint, but it's really not reality, right? So when we talk to these fleets, they need to understand that we're going to go and we're going to put together a full marketing plan for them. We're going to show them all the comps in the retail space. Like here's what this costs. Here's 5 or 6 examples. So if you're trying to sell it at $5,000 or $10,000 more, you're just not going to be competitive, right? So we always try to be, we're not the cheapest, right? We try to be in that bottom 10 to 20% of competitive pricing in the market. And we've gotten good at pricing things, within that range.
Okay, got it. Tell me about hall compliance. What's that?
It's just a partnership that we've set up. It's not our company.
Okay.
Even though it says Hall, right? It's a different company. It just so happened to be kind of the same branded name.
Yeah.
But it's our effort to take care of our client. Okay. And that mainly comes from the insurance side of our business. Insurance is very big in risk and safety and making sure that fleet remains in compliance. It's a lot of responsibility on the agent to help a small fleet of anywhere from, call it 5 to 20 trucks to stay in proper compliance, because they've hit that growth level where they don't have a safety manager, and they can't hire they maybe can't afford the proper safety software to make sure that they're staying in compliance. And so, we try to give everybody the tools, even if we don't make any money off of it. We try to give everybody the tools to be successful.
Yeah.
We did a great search. Hall Compliance is a phenomenal safety and compliance program, based on AI and the latest technology.
Okay. Who are your typical customers?
Our average customer is an owner-operator, a small fleet. I mean, that is our average guy. Obviously, we work with big fleets of hundreds of trucks and thousands that buy from us, right? But our, everyday guy is, an owner-operator. He owns 1 to 5 units. It's still our typical guy.
And why, when you kind of get the customer feedback, why do they choose you guys?
I think it's the relationship, and I think it's the trust that we build, across each business division. We try to, if we work with you in sales and finance and insurance, there's a lot that we can do to pass some savings on to you. We're getting, 3 transactions, so there's a little bit that we can do to make the deal better for you, right? If you work with us in all of the different areas. And so that's what we try to build, is the relationship, the trust, the confidence. We don't like to say that, we have customers, right? Customers is kind of transactional. Mm-hmm. Like I mentioned clients a few times. The reason I mention clients is because we still work with the same guys that we did in 2012. Those are our clients, right? So that's kind of the thought process here.
Got it. And then I also read that you guys do equipment for government contracting. Tell me about that. How did you get into that?
Yeah,
it's interesting.
It's great. So the government's pretty much municipalities buy new, right? So as a new representing OEM dealership, that's the next logical growth, right? And not a new company, but definitely a new division. So, they have, waste contracts in Florida and government bids. We've sold 2 pieces of equipment to NASA, right, for their program. And we're in the process of selling some more to them. Hope I'm allowed to share that. But here we go. But these things are the next logical thing that we would grow into, is that government procurement, that government sales division. And so we took one of our more experienced sales guys, and we've kind of dedicated him to managing that process. Lots of paperwork, lots of meetings, lots of emails back and forth to get that spec correct. But when you win a bid, it could be a consistent, profitable part of the business, and it is. It's a very good part of our business. So
are you working with you're working with contractors, or you're working with the government directly?
We mainly sell to counties, cities, and municipal.
Okay. So when they're looking for equipment, they come to you guys and you sell directly to them.
Yeah. For example, waste equipment.
Okay.
Right? So we'll sell a lot of waste equipment in Florida through MAC. And a lot of our government contracts are based on waste equipment, which are, tippers, walking floors, different types of equipment there.
Okay.
Yeah, we just did a deal with the Miami-Dade County. We did a bunch of chassis with them for their waste project. We partnered with Waste Management, did some deals with them. So we've started to, break into the bigger type of companies as well. But still the core is the owner-operator and the small fleets.
And how long do those contracts typically last, those government contracts?
They're all different. They're all different.
Yeah,
I think the longest contract we've held is 3 years for waste in Florida, which is a sheriff's bid contract.
Okay.
So some other ones are just project by project. You put in a bid, the lowest bid. They basically pick you Okay. Or maybe not the lowest,
the
but
lowest bid.
The equipment that typically it's the lowest bid, right? Gets the deal.
Well, who offers the lowest price and the best value at the same time?
The best value,
right?
yeah. I mean, anyone could sell, dumpster, but yeah. Exactly.
Okay, got it. And then you guys have a fuel card as well?
We don't.
Or you partner with a fuel card company?
It's a TCS.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's same thing. It's trying our best to provide savings and value for our clients.
Okay.
That's what that is. Is just trying to, give them a way to be more successful, right? If they're successful, they're going to come back and buy equipment from us. They're going to finance more with us. They're going to grow their fleet. They're going to need more insurance. So that's why we try to put all these, ancillary type products out there that we believe in. We're not just putting anything out there.
Right.
And this, the TCS fuel card, they save, 55 cents a gallon, 45 cents a gallon. I mean, it's a good deal.
Okay, cool. Tell me about giving back, man. I know you guys are a Christian-based organization. Yeah. You proudly profess that.
Yeah.
And tell me about 4 Kids, man. What's going on with that?
So we had a program with 4 Kids where, again, we were doing well at that point, and we wanted to give back. It's something that's just pretty close to my heart. Foster kids, and 4 Kids was a great organization, and we actually did a project with our leasing company, which every trailer that we leased, we would give back a certain amount of that profitability to 4 Kids. So it was nice. So as this leasing company grew, so did our donation to 4 Kids. And
what do they do?
So they're a foster care company for kids, and they're Christian based. Okay. Met a lot of the same values that we have as well. And I went to school at the church that kind of runs that, right? I went to Calvary Christian Academy, and it was just a really good program that was really near and dear to my heart to give back to. Okay,
got it. So are there any other businesses that I missed? If we can kind of dive into some of them a little more, but is there anything that I missed that you want to kind of throw out there as well?
You got it. You got new and used sales.
Yep.
You got repair and service. I missed the big one, actually.
Talk to me.
Yeah, so this is the biggest project that we had, which I'm very surprised I missed it. But we bought a piece of land. This is our growth, still growth minded here.
Okay.
But we bought a piece of land in Lakeland, Florida, which is right in between Orlando and Tampa, right on Interstate 4, right on the highway, with great visibility, right? And again, my dad found the location, not listed, completely off market. Went in, knocked on the door, who's the owner? Got in touch with them and made him a deal. But this was a very big purchase for us. We bought a 5.5 acre facility on the highway, so pretty expensive. And we built our first location. We hired a contractor, and we built a beautiful building and a beautiful dealership out there. And so today, we have the South Florida locations, we have Macon, Georgia, and we have really our headquarters location in Lakeland, Florida. And it has service, repair, beautiful office, state-of-the-art facility.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Got it. So I guess the path forward, are you guys going to continue just to kind of focus on the trailer side, or do you plan to grow out, get more into truck sales? Like what's the future look like?
I think we're always going to do truck sales, right? We're always going to have good opportunities for trucks, but we're not really going to compete with a Freightliner dealer on new truck sales, right? So we're going to really focus on trailers. That's going to be the area that we focus on from a sales standpoint, growing out the different lines, making sure we put our effort into that, and just continue to be that one-stop trailer dealership type of organization.
Okay. Cool. Let's talk about equipment financing, man, because I'm sure there's somebody watching right now. They probably want to lease or rent some equipment from you.
Absolutely.
Is there a difference between leasing and renting? And if so, can you explain what that would be?
Yeah, I mean, the terms between finance, leasing, they kind of get blurred a little bit in this industry. It's arguably the same thing. It's just the structure of the deal. And so, renting is the easiest, right? You get equipment, you have a certain term that you have to meet, whether it's a year or month to month, and then you return it, right? You never have equity in the equipment. You can never depreciate it on your own balance sheet. But there's a time to rent, right? And then there's a time to buy or lease, right? And when you buy, you can either finance equipment, or you can really have like a lease structured finance, and they're a little different, right? So we offer all three, right? We'll rent to you if you want it. We don't do personally, month to month rentals. We do a little longer term rental.
Okay.
And we tend to go more towards the new equipment. And the reason we don't do month to month on new is because the depreciation is really steep at that point. So we'll rent, but it's a little longer contract with us. So if someone's looking for a month-to-month rental, probably not us, right? But we'll go long. We'll go 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. We'll go out far. On the finance side, right, we do our own in-house financing. We've recently redeveloped our brand from Nationwide Haul Leasing to Oakwood Equipment Finance, right? And so this is where we're putting most of our money into putting out these leases and these finance contracts. But, there's a difference between leasing and financing. So if you finance, you're going to put a down payment down. You will own the equipment, right? The lender will have a lien against the equipment on the title, but you own it. So it's an on-balance sheet asset for you. You can depreciate that equipment, and it's a little bit different than a lease, right? A lease is a little bit more flexible, where you have, the way that we do it is we sell the equipment to them, right? We are technically still the owners of the equipment, but there's an agreed lease contract. Now that agreed lease contract gives them flexibility. So they can either buy it at the end, they can return it at the end, or they can keep renting it at the end. So they have that flexibility, right? And they may pay a little bit more in the end for that flexibility, but not that much, right? So they're pretty comparable products that we offer. The option for them to own the equipment right away and depreciate it, but not a lot of flexibility in that contract. Or secondly, the option to have that flexible type lease in their company.
What's the underwriting process look like?
Yeah, so it's pretty similar to what's out there with different lenders. I mean, we're going to look at the same things they do and more, right? Being from the industry, having the experience in insurance, knowing the equipment very well, we have a different perspective than a lot of traditional lenders in the industry. So we're going to look at your credit. We're going to see what's the history of payment on this client. We're going to look at your bank statements. We're going to make sure that you can actually afford this equipment that you want, and it's not an emotional decision or you're going to get yourself in trouble. So we look at both of those things, and we try to underwrite to make sure that you'll be successful. The last thing in the world we want is to lease or finance equipment, and then you can't make your payment, and it's too much equipment for you, and it was the wrong fit, right? And so we get into understanding the type of freight that you haul and how experienced your drivers are and your story behind the business. It's not just paper, right? It's not just what's on paper and numbers. It's an actual story. So we want to hear from you. That's why we take a little longer. We're not going to get you approved in 4 hours, right? It's just not going to happen, right? We're going to take a day or two to get to know you, ask you a lot of questions, but our goal is for you to be successful, right? We do not want to take that equipment back. We want to make sure that we work with you and that you can buy your first, second, third, fourth, and so on.
Yeah. Is there a minimum credit minimum credit requirement?
There's really not. Let's say you got to have at least one or two of the three following things. Okay. You have no credit, no money, and no experience. You got to be like a family member or a friend at this point. And maybe you'll get something. But you got to have one of the three. You got to have one of the three. At least one, maybe two. Two's probably the best. But
you'll be able to work with somebody if they have at least one of those.
Yeah. I mean, look, if a guy wants to come in and he's got challenge credit, or not to say bad or terrible, but he's got challenge credit, and it happens. I mean, people run across bad times. But again, if there's a story behind there, and whether it's medical bills or divorce or something like that, and he has the industry experience, and he's got a little money to put down, we'll take a shot, and the bank won't. The bank will not take a shot on that deal. They'll just say next. We know that that's a great client for us. That's going to grow and is going to come back because of that confidence and that trust that we had in them.
How do you balance that risk?
We balance it like any other portfolio, so it's weighted, right? So we'll take the top tier credits to kind of counterbalance that. But we have a very different. We're very different than a lender, right? Because if we get the equipment back, let's say worst case scenario, the guy says, look, I can't make it, and it happens. I mean, guys try their best, they can't make it, and they return the equipment. We're in a little bit different situation than just a lender, right? What is that lender supposed to do with that equipment? How do they prep it? How do they sell it? How do they remarket it, right? So that's our process. So that's how we started. So we're very comfortable getting equipment back. Yeah. So that's why we feel like we have a little bit more of an advantage.
Got the upper hand there. Yeah, for sure. Because worst case, you just take it back and you could do something else with it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we recondition it and we lease it right back out.
Okay.
So it doesn't hurt us as bad.
Got it. What's a typical lease structure you guys offer?
Yeah, we'll offer direct financing.
Okay.
We'll offer leases, and the lease structures are very different. It's customized kind of to your business. I mean, what do you need? You know, are you looking to pay something off very quickly? Are you looking for the flexibility at the end? You know, do you want to always stay in new equipment? So you want to lease, you know, sell back to us, we'll buy it back from you kind of thing. It really sit down with you and structure the deal that makes sense.
And you offer buyouts, obviously?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So all of our lease contracts come with pre-negotiated buyouts, right? So you know exactly what you're getting into from a buyout perspective. I mean, if you remember 2 or 3 years ago, the equipment went through the roof.
Yeah.
I mean, we had negotiated buyouts where, you know, let's just say it was a buyout of $5,000 or $10,000. That equipment at the time was worth 40, right? And that's an obvious buyout, right? But we've also had it where, you know, we've had a buyout of $10,000 or $12,000, and maybe it's a sort of a down market. There's a lot of supply out there, and that equipment was only worth $8,000, right? So that guy returned it.
Right.
So that's that flexibility point that you have when you work with us on the leasing side.
Okay. Now, if a customer does fall behind on their payments, what are their options, man?
There's a lot of options, man. It's, say, number one, just communicate, right? The worst
Most
thing.
important thing.
That's it. Like, look, if we run to pull your money, right? And we set up on ACH, so you don't have to send us a check. You know, you give a authorization, but we'll go in and we'll pull that money on a monthly basis. And it's always the same, you know, amount that you know is on the contract. But if we get that NSF, that non-sufficient funds notification that comes back, I mean, that hurts a little bit. We would rather you say, hey, look, Derek, or, you know, our leasing company, Bertha, look, you know, I'm running across some tough times right now. You're not going to get the payment. You know, how can we work this out? And we'll structure something with you.
Makes sense.
If you communicate with us, we'll communicate with you.
Yeah.
We're not in business to take equipment back and see people fail, right?
How is the trailer demand right now in the across the industry? What are you seeing? Because you get to see everything, you know, from the inside looking out, right?
Yeah.
What's going on?
I'll give you back to 2020, right? When we started in 2020, the insurance agency, which I moved into firsthand, and, you know, I can't watch everything. So I really focused on that, but there was a lot of startup growth back then. I mean, people were getting into the business. The demand was going through the roof. The manufacturers weren't building as much back then, right? So you have more people needing equipment and less supply. I mean, everything went through the roof.
Up.
Everything went up, but like everything that goes up,
must
come down, right? So we saw a lot of supply come back into the market. We saw, you know, trailer values go from, you know, normal value on a drive-in used to be $32,000, 30 to 32 new. We saw it go up to like $75,000, $85,000, right? And, you know, a lot of lenders were financing it at that point, and, you know, guys were buying a lot of equipment and just building up on the hype of the market at that point. And when that started to cool off, that started to come down like a rock, right? So we've been in that downward, you know, trend for the last 18 months. I think in the last 6 months, we've seen it come up a lot. We've seen it, the demand start to creep back in, and we judge it from obviously how many pieces of equipment we're selling, but really like how many leads are we getting on a monthly basis, right? So we've seen that in the last 6 months creep up 30, 40%.
So is that a trigger for you to buy more? Like, how do you guys kind of weigh that?
Yeah, just like anyone. I mean, we're trying to balance our inventory to meet the demand, you know, and these are not appreciating assets, they're depreciating assets. So the more you have kind of every month, you know, you lose a little bit of money, lose a little bit of value. So we're trying to always make sure that we have enough equipment, you know, to sell and always have what somebody needs. But if we have too much, you know, floor plan costs and the depreciation of the equipment value kind of eats us alive as a company.
Tell me about some of like you keep on talking about your clients and these relationships that you have. Tell me about like maybe like a fleet owner that you maybe saw grow from like one trailer to many. Do you have any stories like that that's grown with you?
We're up in Philadelphia area right now, and New Jersey area, and I have a great client up here, and he's been working with us I think since 2013 or 14.
Okay.
Very early when his fleet was maybe I want to say like 10 or 15 trucks, and we've worked with him over the years, right? So he's I call him a friend, right? I talk to him, I talk to his manager a lot, and so they've grown to 300 vehicles now. I mean, they're a huge success story. And
what type of equipment?
Reefers, dry vans, and flats. Yeah, reefers, dry vans, and flats. And he runs an owner-operator based operation. He's got some company drivers, but primarily owner ops. And again, just hardworking guy, and puts back into his business and does the right thing. But we started leasing him equipment, And then, I bought equipment from him, right, that he needed to sell. And then a year down the road, he bought a bunch of new a bunch of new pieces of equipment. And then we got his insurance in place. And he's hit almost every one of our, our businesses.
Verticals,
And he calls me for favors all the time, and I call him for favors, and we always try to help each other. But that's the type of relationship that we really like. We like to see, a guy come in and buy his first or his 10th, but grow. We want to see you grow, right? Obviously, from a financial perspective, it makes sense.
Right.
But also, we enjoy what we do, and we want to see our clients succeed.
Yeah. How has tech impacted your business over the year, positively or in any way, just over the years? I mean, you guys have been doing this for quite some time now. Tell me about how the emerging tech has kind of influenced the business.
Yeah, there's a lot. Marketing stands out to me. The technology and marketing and the ability for somebody to sell their own equipment and find equipment, right? It seems to have taken the industry and brought it a lot closer, right? So there's more competition now because of technology, in my opinion. There's more. And so you have to be, that much better at what you do because there's more technology out there. There's more information out there for people to research and understand how to get the best deal. So you got to make sure you're the real deal and you're offering the right equipment at the right price. On the tech side, we've worked with different systems, underwriting systems to properly underwrite and evaluate our risk to make sure that we're not just making emotional decisions. So
AI tools?
Yeah, more formulas and AI tools and analytics to look at the data to really make sure that we're making the right decisions on what kind of portfolio we structure. Now, AI is interesting, right? So that's
very interesting.
Yeah, it's extremely interesting. So, it's not just ChatGPT. How do you take it to the next level? And I've been very curious about that because I think, it's the same thing with my parents, right? They, that was the computer age for them, and they weren't so sure how to use the computer, right? I don't want to be part of that space that doesn't really know how to use AI because I didn't grow up with it, right? So, becoming curious about that, trying to figure out ways to implement that into our business. And I think the biggest thing that we'll do from an AI standpoint is implement it into our compliance and our insurance agency. The compliance and the auditing of what we do with as many moving parts and pieces that there are to a trucking insurance policy. You can make mistakes. Those mistakes, they hurt our clients and they come back at us. And it's expensive. So you can either, employ more people to try to analyze these policies that are 50 pages long, right? Or you can implement AI to kind of analyze them and pick out the correct points to keep you in compliance. And so we're working right now with someone to build AI bots for the back end of our compliance department and insurance.
Okay.
Yeah, very early.
That sounds interesting.
It is.
For sure. Talk about your partnership with Mac. You guys are top 5 or the 5th top dealer in the country?
We've won awards. Once we were a top 5 dealer. We pretty much maintained maybe top 10, I think, in the country. Yeah. There's some big dealers out there that represent Mac.
Does that give you any type of flexibility that other dealers may not have with them?
No, I wish. They're fair. Mac is fair. It works in our favor, right? A lot too.
Yeah.
But they're fair, man. They don't play around with pricing. Everyone gets the same price. Everyone gets the same support. And it's a big network of dealers. That's a big family network of dealers. So we all help each other.
Yeah.
It's very unique, that Mac product. And it goes back to, the management and the ownership. It's very family-oriented.
Mac is special, man.
Mac is very special to us.
They're special. They're a special brand. How are you managing all these businesses under one roof? Because you guys are doing a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So, just talk to me step away from the entrepreneurial perspective. How do you manage all of this and still be effective?
I wake up, I roll over, and I start my emails. It's honestly like that.
Yeah.
And I just try as hard as I can. There's a lot of support, right? And you need a really good team around you. These are not employees, these are colleagues. These are people I work with. They don't work for me, we work with them, right? So we are really one big family of 50 people or so, and everyone's got the same work ethic. So it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work to juggle everything. We're constantly trying to, figure out our process and, maximize efficiencies and do all the things that a business does, through use of software or AI. But at the end of the day, it's just hard work, right? It's just getting up and getting after it every day.
Is the financing still the business unit that stands out the most for you? Like, is that what you enjoy the most, or?
I personally enjoy the most the financing and the insurance.
Okay.
Those are my two babies. I've jumped away from the dealership. I've jumped away from equipment sales. I've personally never really been that involved in the repair side of the business, just from a more strategy standpoint. But I know the ins and outs of the equipment financing and the insurance pieces.
Yeah.
Those to me are the most fun parts of our business.
Got it. What's new in the insurance world, man, that people should know about? I know you're always keeping tabs on things. Yeah. What's going on now these days?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's the intrusiveness of the front-facing cameras. It's all the AI that's, predictive analysis. And, you got a bunch of insurance agencies, all trying to figure out the right underwriting criteria to mitigate their risk, right? And you have, these big lawsuits, and everyone wants to sue a trucking company.
Nuclear verdicts.
Nuclear verdicts are a big topic at every insurance conference we go to. How do we avoid them? They're just devastating, right? So cameras in trucks. People don't like that. They don't like the intrusiveness of what people are watching. I don't blame them, right? But that's sort of where that industry is going. The insurance company has to underwrite risk, right? They have to analyze data. So for them to get the data from an ELD, right, or to get the data from a camera that's maybe forward facing, it allows them to underwrite risk better. And if you're a safe company, right, operating properly, that insurance company is there to support you and defend you, right? So people think that they're going to get caught, right? If I'm speeding, I'm going to get caught. Or if my driver grabs his phone, the claim's not going to get paid. That's not true. Right? They're there mostly to defend you, right? So it's a little bit of a misconception, but I do understand why people don't want a camera in their face 24/7, right? It's an invasion of privacy. So there's that counterbalance that has to happen in the industry, but these insurance premiums are getting out of hand. I mean, they're very expensive.
They've been going up like crazy.
They're going up. We see people just can't afford it, right? They're just in an area like New York or Miami or some area of the country, and the rates are just out of control. And it's obviously driven by the lawsuits, right? Which then goes to insurance, which is a big vicious cycle. So what I'd like to see happen is I'd like to see some reform step in to kind of stop and put some logic behind some of these lawsuits.
Okay.
I think personally, just from firsthand experience from the insurance companies, from people suing them and suing our insurance, it gets way out of hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's the onus on though? Is it on the carriers to be more safe? I mean, because it's like when you have these nuclear verdicts, it's like you can't really put a price on someone's life, but at the same time, it's like $400 or $500 million for this. So it's a hard discussion to have, right?
Yeah.
So where to start?
I think everybody needs to give.
Everybody needs to get in.
Yeah, I think everyone needs to give a little bit. It's just one of those things. There's not going to be a perfect answer. You're going to have horrible scenarios, right? You're going to have bad situations. It's not going to be perfect. If there's reform that steps in and controls it, it's also not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
But I think where it sits right now is a little out of hand. I think it could get, crazy.
And that makes your job difficult, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I mean, because when you're trying to underwrite something, it's like you tell these people these prices, these premiums, and they're like, "What am I going to do with this?"
Exactly, and so it forces someone to shut down and restart. Right?
Yeah,
and just right back at it. And does it really solve the problem? I mean, not really. They just force to shut down and restart. So the insurance companies look for, when they're underwriting, they look kind of for two things, especially with losses, right? And this is what a lot of people don't maybe know, but they look for the severity of the incident, right? And they look at the frequency, right? So how severe is a one accident? It could be 100,000, it could be 5,000, it could be 1 million, but they really focus more on the frequency of the issue, right? So the frequency, if you're a trucking company and you're frequently getting in accidents or you're frequently getting DOT violations, that's worse than having one big pop.
Right.
One big accident where it could be the worst case scenario, maybe fatality. There's a lot of insurance companies that we work with. We work with over 100, right? There's a lot that we work with that can look past that because they'll do their research and understand the scenario. Not at fault, guy cut him off, big accident, big severe case. It's actually worse for a guy that has 5 fender benders and runs red lights, and that's more detrimental. That's what they
the behavior.
The behavior, yeah.
Okay. Okay, got it. So they're using like a formula, kind of like
They all have their own, formulas. They don't share those with us.
they don't share exactly what it is.
No.
But there's some sort of formula algorithm that they're kind of using in order to do that.
Yeah, we had a guy recently have a $500,000 loss, right? $500,000 loss, and at his but he's been in business 10 years and he's never had any issues, right? And that one went both ways. Whose fault was it? It was one of those things. We got him the same rate that he had. I mean, the same exact rate. His insurance did not increase because the insurance company we placed him with, looked at the frequency level as low. And they took a shot on him. And he's a great client.
Got it. What can people do to reduce their insurance premiums beforehand? What are some steps you can kind of take as a company? You said the cameras, that's one. What are some other things that come off the top of the head? Safety measures, right? Making sure your drivers are trained properly. Growing slower a little bit, to be honest with you, right? So one of the biggest things, and again, people don't understand this about insurance. Insurance companies do not like growth. Right. You think of an entrepreneurial mind, a lot of my clients will say, when we're doing the story and we're typing it up for the insurance underwriter, they'll say, well, tell them we want to get 5 trucks this year. Like in their mind, that's good. It's like good for them. They're going to make more money. Grow, right? No. It's not what you want to say. It's not what you want to say. Call that rapid expansion, right? Yeah. Accelerated growth, rapid expansion. Yeah, they all have their own terms. Yeah. But to be honest, the statistics, all these insurance companies are based on statistics and data. The data behind it is these companies that can operate with 1 or 2 trucks relatively easy, guys on the road, wife's back as the dispatcher, right? They're working that way. They handle their own safety. Once they get 5, 6, 7 owner operators, now things start to kind of get out of hand. They lose track of the safety. They don't manage it properly. So if you're going to grow with someone, especially at the early stages, to support you, right? So hire that safety manager. Even if, you think, I can do this myself. I've done it for 5 or 6 years. If you're getting ready for growth, hire that professional to make sure that you're staying in compliance, right? Because insurance costs can be $25,000 a truck, or it could be $12,000 a truck, or it could be $8,000 a truck. You multiply that times 10 trucks, and there's your profit. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. So that's what you got to do. Okay, that's a good tip. Any other tips for keeping your insurance costs low? Those are the main things. Safety. Work with a good agent. Okay. All agents are not created equal. Right. And look, I'm not going to write your home insurance. Yeah. I don't specialize in that. Yeah. Like we say a lot of times, if you have a heart condition, go to a cardiologist, right? And trucking is such a specialized industry. You got to work with an agent, even if it's not us. You got to work with an agent that specializes in trucking. And just be wary if the agent does a lot of different things, because it's so hard to keep up to date with the latest technology and all the markets, all the insurance company guidelines. Trucking is a beast, for insurance. And if you have a guy that doesn't really specialize, he's more of a generalist, might be okay, but just make sure you do your homework. It's better to work with a specialist. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Got it. What are some things people need to know about trailer leasing, man, and trailer renting? Anything that they should look out for in the contracts and the term? Can you give us some ideas of things? Run that contract through ChatGPT. Fine print. Yeah, run it through ChatGPT. All the time. Yeah, I just started to do that myself, and it's interesting. These contracts can get out of hand. They can get 10, 20 pages for a lease contract. Is there any predatory activity out there that you've seen that from a leasing company? Yeah, some smaller leasing companies, maybe. Okay. You got to be careful. Okay. You got to understand what you're signing, read your contract, understand what you're signing, ask a lot of questions. Everyone sends a DocuSign. I don't know about you, but I click, finish. Yeah, it's done. And you're done. Well, what should you be asking? What questions? You want to know your terms. So, what happens if I'm late, right? What is the default? Like, when am I in default? Is it right away? You can come pick it up. Do you work with me? Is there a 5-day grace, right? What interest rate am I at? Even on a lease contract, you want to know, calculate kind of an interest rate if you can, to figure out kind of how much you're paying. Do you have a buyout option? A lot of places will give you a buyout option, but they're going to tack on a 10%, principal increase to that, or 20%. Some places don't give you a buyout option. They just give you the stream of remaining payments. So you might enter into what you're thinking is a more of a finance agreement where you can pay it off at any point. But you turn around and what you owe is the stream of all the remaining payments on that contract. So you're stuck. So you want a contract that gives you flexibility. So those are the things you got to look for. You got to look for insurance requirements in there.
how to handle tolls, who's responsible for the maintenance. It's all important.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you determine whether it's better to lease or finance for your business?
I mean,
From your experience.
Yeah, you got to look at what you want from as far as a flexibility standpoint. Do you want a finance contract? You're going to be the owner of the equipment. You're going to be more responsible for that equipment. There's really no out to that contract. You can't return it at the end. You have to finish your payments, or you have to buy it, right? But there's benefits of that from a tax standpoint. So you can depreciate that asset fast. There's bonus depreciation that you can get, or do you need a little bit more flexibility in your lease? Or do you want to rent, right? Which provides you a little bit more flexibility. So if you're not quite sure of the equipment you want to buy, or maybe you're testing out a new type of equipment, whether it's, you're a refrigerated company and you're getting into heavy haul, right? Maybe lease or rent that for a year. Make sure that you understand that business before you go and you buy it and you put your name to it fully with the finance agreement.
Yeah. What type of trailers hold their value the best, man?
Yeah, I mean, this Mac equipment holds its value.
It does?
Honestly, yeah.
It really does,
It's the best of the market for holding
Any
its value.
specific equipment type, like the pneumatics or anything that stands out?
The drops, the pneumatics, the dumps, they'll hold their
They
value
all hold their
very
value.
well. Yeah, and heavy haul equipment typically too. Reefers and dry vans, they probably lose their value the fastest, I think. It just depends on the use of the equipment, though. You can beat up equipment fast. If you're hauling certain type of scrap or dump, heavy rocks or whatever, I mean, you're gonna beat up that equipment pretty quickly. So it really just depends on your use, right?
Got it.
I want to introduce to you guys the Truck and Hustle Entrepreneurs Community, a powerful network built for transportation and logistics entrepreneurs by transportation and logistics entrepreneurs who really get it. Whether you're just getting started or looking to build, grow, and scale, TNHEC gives you the roadmap and resources to make it happen. From business planning to real industry connections, expert insights, and a support system that wants to see you win, we've got you covered. Nah, this isn't another Facebook group. This is Truck and Hustle's first ever official community, and it's designed for your success. So, if you're serious about growing your business in transportation and logistics, now is the time. Join the Truck and Hustle Entrepreneurs community today, and let's build something special and amazing together. Let's go.
Are you guys looking to buy equipment from like individuals, like anybody watching this who has equipment to sell? Do you guys do that as well?
Yeah, we do it all the time. You don't have to buy from us for us to buy from you.
Yeah.
So
how does that work?
Just like you think. I mean, you give us
hit you up.
Hit me up. Give us a call. Go to our website. You'll submit pictures of your equipment. You'll say, hey, look, I'm looking to sell this. I'm looking to sell that. We don't buy a lot of super old things, right? Because what we have to do is recondition and sell it. So if it's at the end of its life, it really doesn't make sense for us to buy it. But if you're getting out of a piece of equipment that has a good 5, 6, 7 years left of life, we will definitely make you an offer to buy that.
Okay. What does the reconditioning process look like?
It just depends. I mean, we'll make you an offer. We'll always make you an offer before we see it, okay, based on the equipment being in a certain condition.
Okay.
So we don't know your equipment. You might call us and say, hey, it's perfect. You might come in with holes in the walls. Maybe it'd be perfect for you.
Yeah.
But what we'll do is we'll make you an offer based on the equipment being in DOT condition. Okay. So if it gets to it, so let's say we make you an offer of $20,000 for your reefer, right?
Right.
And that's based on DOT condition.
Right. Roadworthy.
Yeah, road ready, roadworthy. If it gets to us and it needs $5,000 of work, that offer is going to go from 20 to 15. I mean, logically, we have to fix it to get it back in condition for the road, right? So you can sell us equipment that needs some work, and our shop can quote it out for you and do it, or you can go fix it yourself. But we buy equipment, based on DOT condition. Doesn't have to be in DOT condition, but that's the terms that we'll give you, if that makes sense.
Got it. And that's trucks and trailers.
Mostly trailers.
Mostly trailers.
Yeah, we'll buy some trucks. Trucks tend to be a little newer for us to buy, because we want trucks. We'll buy trucks at less than 400,000 miles on a regular basis, 350, because again, it has to have that secondary life cycle for us to be able to resell it and get another guy in it for another 5 years. So if a truck's got 650 or 750,000 miles, in some instances, we might consign it for you. We might help you sell it. We might, say, hey, look, I can't sell it, but this guy can, or this guy can buy it. So we're not going to just leave you hanging. We're going to help you figure it out. But what we buy, right, is something with a little more life left on it for trucks.
Got it. Did you ever imagine this business growing this big, man? To where it's at today?
No. I was trying to think about what the heck I was going to say sitting here with you, right?
Yeah.
But I remember going to play tennis with my dad early on in the business, and he said, "Man, Derek, if we just had X amount of money, if we just had a couple $100,000 in the bank for our dealership, I mean, that we'd make it. That would be it, And to see like what we've kind of accomplished after putting in all this hard work is the best. I mean, it's been awesome."
What do you think has been the best decision that you guys have made that had the most impact?
Yeah, just being the two equal partners, and best decision I ever made was going to business with my father, and I think he would say the same thing about me. I mean, we've been at each other's throat a lot, right? If you can imagine, father-son relationship. But at the end of the day, we always had the business's best interest in mind, our client's best interest in mind. I think the best decision that I made in business was actually going into business with him.
Got it. And a lot of times family businesses don't work out, man.
Yeah.
What's the secret sauce for you guys?
We're just close. I mean, I'm the only son. I grew up, he was there, tennis coach from 10. I saw him work really hard, in his career to provide for our family. And we didn't have that much, we grew up with credit card debt and, didn't drive a nice car, but always had food on the table. And I saw that work ethic that he had. And, I admire that, obviously. And so we translated that into this business, and we gave back to it like a child, right? And we still don't take from it. We still put right back, and we just want to continue to see it grow and grow profitably, and that's all we can ask for.
Yeah. What does the next 5 years look like for you guys?
Yeah, so it's a heavy focus on equipment finance, insurance, and new equipment sales. Like, as our strategy grows, I mean, we really want to expand our new equipment sales. We want to expand that municipality relationships that we have. And we want to put all our time and effort into expanding insurance and expanding our equipment finance divisions. Got it.
Cool. All right. I think we covered a lot, man.
We did.
We covered a whole lot. This is it's been a really good talk, man. You guys have built something truly incredible. As we kind of come to an end, we always end with like a final thought, which I know you probably had something really well. And what that is just something that, for the entrepreneurs out there, give them a little bit of encouragement or a little bit of inspiration. And then we have to let everybody know where they can connect with you guys, where they can learn more about all the different business units you guys have, the whole nationwide umbrella, and then connect with you directly. So let's start with that final thought. What do you want to tell all the dreamers and entrepreneurs and all the carriers and business people out there that's listening right now?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that comes to mind is there's just no substitute for hard work, right? If you can see it, I think you need to build it, and you need to be the first one to go after it, right? There's a lot of different schools of thought out there, but I've tried things where I wasn't as involved and it didn't do as well, and I've built things where I started it myself and then and passed it to somebody else to manage it, and I've remained involved, and it's done very well. So no substitute for hard work. Numbers don't lie, but trust your gut. Right? Numbers don't lie, but trust your gut. I use that a lot, actually.
Numbers don't lie, but trust your gut.
Numbers don't lie, but trust your gut. You know the right answer. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
All right.
I like that. And then where can people find you? Where are you most active?
So, I mean, you can reach out. Look, my direct contact information to me is always available to everybody. I take calls from anybody, but we have our website.
You might not want to put your number on this video, but if you want to, that's fine. Go ahead.
I get a lot of calls.
I get
a lot of calls. It'll be on the video. But yeah, you can call me directly if you have any questions about insurance. I love to talk to you about insurance. Even if we're not your agent, I love to take a look at a policy that you have to make sure that you're set up properly. If you're thinking about buying equipment, you can go to www.nationwidehall.com. You can visit us online at roadreadyinsurance.com. If you need equipment finance, it's nefnow.com, stands for Nationwide Equipment Finance. And you can kind of see everything that we do right from there. And if you just want to chat, call OCL.
He's the guy to chat with, huh?
That's it.
That's what's up, man. All right, man. So from a couple of trailers buying and leasing to a $100 million business, man, you guys have made amazing steps towards, you know, this entrepreneurial thing that we all love to talk about.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you sitting down here with us
Thank
today. Man, it's
Thank
been
you.
amazing, man. Thank you so
Appreciate you.
much, Derek. I appreciate it. Hustle fam, you know what we do around this time. If you smell something burn, it's only your desire. Myself, Mr. Derek Madden from Nationwide Hall, we are out.
All right, y'all, listen, I'm happy to announce that we finally launched our YouTube memberships. Listen, if you want to support Truck and Hustle for all the hard work that we've been doing over the past 5 years, this is where you need to be. As a part of our memberships, number one, you'll get exclusive access to all of our archive content. Number two, we'll be doing at least one live webinar with one of the guests or somebody else from our network that you love to continue to add value to you and your business. Third, we'll be having exclusive behind the scenes content that we shoot and doesn't, make the final cut. So make sure you go check it out. Get that subscription right now and join us, man. TNH forever. Let's go. All right, guys, if you love Truck and Hustle and you love the interviews and the information that we're providing week to week, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. All right, Hustle fam.